Greetings. The episode of 33 North 96 West that you are about to see or hear is actually the second in a two-part episode about the I am awareness. So of course you are welcome to listen to this one episode as a standalone, or if you would prefer, we'd recommend that you click back if you haven't already listened to the first part so that you receive the benefit of the full episode. Okay, here we go. So, can I ask why are we sharing this? Why is it important to you? Why do we feel inspired for everyone to have the opportunity to claim their identity as and through their I am presence?
So I had a beautiful conversation in the last couple of days about this. And I talked about what we are. We are an aspect of Source, and we are, if we choose to embody that, to give ourselves permission to explore that and embody that more and more. But something came up in a really good conversation is, let's ask our why. Why we are. And I don't mean why as in let's explain creation or the big boom or big bang, whatever it is that we choose to explore. I mean, what is our why? Some people, refer to that, or we all have referred to that as my purpose. So in this really good philosophical conversation, the why for me, I gave an answer, and then later that night it went even deeper as I explored it more. But my why is because I desire, and I don't mean from a place of lack, oh gosh, we don't have it, but I personally know the experience of this and how absolutely powerful it is, and how it can completely shift your entire life as a creator, not as a bystander having experiences of whatever's thrown at you. Like understanding the power you have in creating intentionally and what you desire. So I desire, what do I get from that? I get fulfillment. Tying back to a previous episode, I get so much fulfillment from that. I feel completely full. I feel whole. I feel expansive. I feel absolute infinite, etc. And so, as a very giving, generous, loving person, why would I want to withhold that from anybody else? I would want everybody to have the potential to have ultimate fulfillment and realize that for it to become realized within them. To first realize, I wrote something this week about, do you realize or do you realize, using all caps the second time, meaning we can realize it conceptually, or we can actually realize it into our physical vessel. Like I said, change the cells, change the DNA. I am so filled up and so full of life. It comes down to life. I am at a point in my journey where I cannot possibly fathom not finding the delicious moments in every moment of life. And I would love to see that be a present to everybody of coming to know their I am presence at such a level. And I will add here too, that does not mean that I have my head in the clouds and I don't know what's going on in the world. And that seems to be a fairly common perspective when someone's just living in so much joy and love and abundance, and it's like, oh, their heads are in the clouds. Their head is in the clouds. They're not here. They're not grounded. They're not paying attention. I didn't get there by not going through all of that, by going through an immense amount of humanity and cultural suggestions and the programming and all of that with each choice I made that expanded me more into more permission and more permission and more permission for myself. So another thing that came to me later in the night as to my why is because I am a creator. And I have known this my entire life. I have so much passion and inspiration to create, whether that's through ideas, concepts, thoughts, whether it's something physical, tangible, a good meal. I can do different types of craft, sewing, woodwork, whatever that might be, how that comes out. But I understand that I am so deeply ingrained as a creator. I came here knowing I was a creator, and I can't not do that. So that's the other thing that ties to that. I would love for others to know that they are a creator, and you can create with passion and consciously create, or you can create unconsciously and just be in that experience of I'm living what's served to me. Because again, I understand we're that powerful. We're that powerful.
I'm going to express a statement that you have brought me to. I am in an act of creation anytime I have any experience.
Yes.
I'm in an act of creation every time I perceive anything.
Yes.
Is that untrue for any conscious being?
No.
Is anything without consciousness?
No.
So one of the things that I was inspired to that from what you just said. Another thing I'm inspired to is that it was implicit in your claims of realization in your own experience, is that while you are the creator in your experience, you also are recognizing that that is true for everyone else as well.
Yes. And
so this is part of my big inspiration, and definitely part of my inspiration for us sharing in this way and doing the podcast. And I'm going to make a statement. When you operate from what I'm going to refer to as distortion, a distorted view of who and what we are, you reinforce the structure of that distortion. That's the way energy works. Mm-hmm. So if there's a pervasive perspective of powerlessness, we are reinforcing those structures by operating as and through that idea of powerlessness. Mm-hmm. So once one begins to awaken to the possibility, give themselves permission to entertain the idea that we are powerful creators, you begin to realize, and there's kind of as we've said, a dance back and forth, up and down between the world you've been living and the possibility that you see. Mm-hmm. And it becomes actually, I'm going to say, more and more painful to not inhabit that new space that you have arrived at. And Terri is absolutely right. In my experience, it's true that you have to witness a lot of your creations. And I feel like we're doing this on a collective level mm-hmm. as well. So once again, I feel we arrived at a point in this conversation where it sort of feels redundant with mm-hmm. all the messages that we've shared. But we approach each message from a different perspective through a different pre-production conversation. Mm-hmm. And we always arrive at sort of these fundamental truths. And I think that's beautiful that we do that. So we are collectively manifesting a shift we're manifesting something all the time. We have created this reality. I'm creating my reality. You're creating your reality. And we have these interactions and engagements where our realities cross paths, and we have an opportunity to engage with others, and we're co-creating. And so once you become aware of these dynamics and you begin to realize that many of the past claims of limitation or ideas about what we thought was possible for who and what we could be, or who and what we could become, you arrive at a space. It feels to me like I can't not do this.
Yes.
It feels fun. It feels frisky. It feels like the next logical thing. It's the exciting thing. It's about manifestation at so many different levels and in so many different ways.
It is. And something that I want to add to the conversation that I heard put this way the other day. We've talked about beliefs several times on this channel. And I heard it put this way. We either know or we don't know. And what we don't know, we tend to create a belief around so that we can then think we know it. Those are my words to paraphrase the energy behind the statement. But oh my gosh, it's like, so many times my invitation to people to give themselves permission to go beyond what we've already said is that I'm really giving you an invitation to give yourself permission to step outside of adopted beliefs, because these are prior suggestions and prior things you've adopted and prior claims. Okay, so these are your prior claims. And you can in any moment say, wow, I can go beyond you're giving yourself permission to say, I don't have to be this identity or these claims that have been made. That's huge. I mean, if you really break it down, what are you giving yourself permission to do? We've talked about it from a very broad perspective of considering that there's something beyond what we know. But if you break down what that means, if you don't know, and when I say know, I am not talking about textbook knowledge. I'm not talking about information that you have learned or memorized or applied. I'm talking about what you feel. That's what I mean by know. What you feel in your body, in your cells, in your emotions, what you actually feel. So when you don't know something, I like that idea that what we do is we're scrambling, if you will, We're scrambling, if you will, to create a belief that allows us to have a comfort space of a measurement of, well, I already know. So if we've already decided we know there is an outside authority, how dare us make a different decision? Because we now have a belief that there's an outside authority. And that would, okay, so this is where people bring in the phrase like feeling deaths of identities. That would mean everything that I am is a lie. I mean, that's just one way I've heard people put it. That's one way you can look at it. It just means you're expanding. I tell people it doesn't mean you've been lying to yourself. It's just that was part of your process. Because it's kind of hard in our psyche to say everything I've ever been is wrong or a lie. Well, let's not look at it that way. Let's just say I'm expanding and considering.
Yeah. So going back to, I asked earlier, and this is a perfect place to tie back to that. Are you required to hold an identity?
No.
So when you arrive at those moments where you're feeling that your ego is being annihilated, and mine has been over and over and over again in the most delicious ways, you may again begin to give yourself permission to realize that you are not required to identify at all.
Yes.
Does your I am presence have beliefs?
No.
So, and I'm really wanting to express this so when when you're in a space of knowing, couldn't you say that is a space of identification as the I am?
That's what knowing is to me. Yes.
That's the aspect of you that
Absolutely.
knows. So when you're identified with, well, I believe that da 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 da, those beliefs are claims of aspects of you. You're making the claims and the beliefs, but you are solidifying and reinforcing those structures in your experience. Are you required to have beliefs? I'm going to ask that in a different way.
The $1 million question. I have been working with that for a few years, and every evolution of that revolution, let's put it that way, every revolution around that, I come to more and more knowing that I don't identify, I don't resonate with beliefs. I've said this for years. And of course, my logical, philosophical husband, who is also very connected to the quantum and esoteric and all that, but that's his go-to is logic. He says, well, you can't not have beliefs. So in my exploration of that, I will tell you what I have come to know my core belief is. And when it's this expansive, it can definitely feel at times very mind-blowing. But what I know my core belief is ties back to the beginning of this episode. I am that I am. And the word that is what I claim. I am that I am. And whatever I choose to claim is what I am. But when I say I am that I am, my personal truth and knowing is that I am one with God, with Source, with Creator, as God, Source, Creator. It is embodied within me, and there is not even the possibility for it to be separate when you know it. And that's a very expansive belief. And I am very grateful, and every day, so much gratitude and love and honor around that. So when something comes into my field and I realize that I'm not holding this to my core belief of knowing I am, that I am, knowing I am nothing less than one with Source, I'm able to shift that pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And another side to that is I can say if I don't know. And that was this whole thing around we either know or we don't know. We create beliefs to say we know. However, it is okay. Back to permission. It is okay to say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the actual story of creation. I don't know. That's a very broad one, but I don't know what I'm going to feel called to identify as tomorrow. I don't, it's okay to say those things. We can give ourselves permission to not know. We have claimed in humanity that we have to know.
Yeah. Questions are sometimes the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think confusion at times is part of a process.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the why and in the elaboration, connecting to what you were just expressing, I'm reminded of the initiation series by Matthias De Stefano on the Gaia Network, and I'm sharing that again as a recommendation because for those of you who are listening or been a part of this podcast, I think that many of you would appreciate that series, Initiation on Gaia. So what I'm sharing is my memory of how he was explaining a little bit the why of things, but actually beginning with the I am presence, the creator as the I am. There was, after that expression, another expression: what may I become? And we've talked about this before as well. Like, it can be understood that we are here to have experiences so that the creator can know what it can become. Isn't that beautiful?
It is absolutely beautiful.
So at the broadest, most general sense, the answer to the question of why is so that the creative energy of the universe can know what it can become. That's you.
That's the who.
Yeah.
That's the who that you are.
And the who that I am,
And the who that yes.
Yeah, and the who that Terri is,
and you get to create the who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to my question, is source energy malleable to thought and experience?
It's created.
Yeah.
By thought. Or you, let me say that a different way. It is malleable. It is driven. All creation is driven by thought. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is
all
an
creation.
Expansion and evolution. Can we just rest in this for just a moment? Because this is an indication. This is telling the story of the shift in awareness that is becoming online and available to us as a species, as an organism of humanity. There is nothing that is not affected by your consciousness now. Nothing. Nothing. Everything is changed by your consciousness now. And now, and now, and now. And this is true for everybody.
When we create and adopt a belief, we begin gathering evidence to support that belief.
The universe is required to give you evidence.
Yes, absolutely. I say we begin collecting. We are delivered.
Yeah.
We are delivered that through experience and through experiences. So again, the invitation is to consider giving yourself permission for that to be so much broader and more expansive than maybe you ever imagined. If that belief can be more expansive, taking more of the limitations out, then the universe is going to deliver you more expansive experiences.
So here's where I want to go next, Terri. Is it possible for a world to be manifest beyond fear?
The esoteric mystic of me has to give a 2-part answer. I don't have to. I choose to. I'm definitely going to bring in, it depends on someone's definition of world, because there is the world and then there is my world. And that's the best way I can describe it to people when I'm talking about, I don't have the same world outpictured that you do. I don't, that's not my world. So if people are talking about certain things that they're focused on that they don't desire in the world, in the collective that they're observing, they just don't understand how that's not part of my world, because again, it comes back to the claims. So let me reset myself and come back to your question. I just keep getting to realize that the world as a collective is so full of infinite possibilities That's how we bring that in to create our own individual world. And I'm not trying to make this difficult. I want to bring it back to a very grounded way in your question. So I guess I'm saying, Jared, assist me with this because that's where I see the biggest disconnect is people think, well, if A, B, C, and D are going on in the world, you cannot possibly separate yourself from that because you're not separate, right? However, I have my choice points of what I'm going to claim.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like us to ground that a little bit is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So with regards to how our individual worlds interact, basically what I'm going to express what you just said in a slightly different way. Is it true in Terri's life experience, she has been offered the opportunity to agree with fear?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is it true to say that at times you have chosen to align with fear?
Yes.
Is it true to say that at times you have chosen to ascend beyond it?
Yes.
Yes. So we're in a co-creative field so that we're offered opportunities. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to say, and this is me wanting to expand everybody's mind with regards to what's possible and how things come to be. If no being is in agreement to the idea of fear, it no longer exists. Mm-hmm. So it's no longer offered as an option for your alignment. And how do we get to that place? When you are offered the opportunity to fear, no thank you. Mm-hmm. Fear is an opportunity to learn. There are other opportunities to learn. So no thank you.
And we all have our ways of navigating that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you can feel the difference.
Absolutely.
I'm aligning to fear now. I can feel I'm at a place in my experience, and again, this is not hierarchical. It's just I've had this experience. I can feel when it's being offered. I can feel what's starting to happen as I begin to agree to it. And then I remember, wait, I'm not required to agree to this. Mm-hmm. This is about moving your conscious awareness to a different level of identification.
Yes.
Yeah. So my answer to the question, is it possible for a world to be manifest beyond fear? Yes.
Yes.
That's my answer. Yes.
I completely agree.
I'm in agreement with the manifestation of a world beyond the idea of fear. Is it possible? Let me ask in a reciprocal way. Are we required to manifest lack?
No.
Is the abundance of the universe limited?
No.
Can we make it limited?
Yes. Something I've said a few times recently it can be, considered mind-blowing, but again, it's something I invite you to just consider. When you really come to know, as I referred to earlier, the what you are, that you are not separate from source, and the power that holds in how you create. You realize that the possibilities are so infinite. And of course, our understanding of infinite is just that. It's an understanding.
It's a concept.
It's a concept.
Yeah.
The experience of it's way beyond that. But even realizing that possibilities truly are infinite is a quite overwhelming experience to the nervous system.
It is, and that's why I'm bringing it down into. Mm-hmm. So I just asked about, are we required to manifest lack?
No.
Is it possible to manifest the idea of infinite abundance?
Yes.
Do you see this? Okay, so So if we believe that our planet is in peril, if that is by virtue of the predominant belief of individuals, we are manifesting a collective belief that the earth is in peril. That will be the reality that we have collectively.
Because our decisions will be made based off of the fear of that becoming realized. That just felt like being said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we understand the abundant and regenerative nature of the universe and this planet, and we are in agreement to that aspect of our experience, that will be manifest.
Yes.
See, these are shifts in perception that lead to that we each individually have we're powerful beyond measure. And it all comes down to your consciousness, your perception in each moment of your experience. And I don't want to say that to be heavy. I want to say that to be inspiring and empowering, but you do need to kind of be aware of what you're doing with your consciousness.
Yes. And you can do these practices, if you will, that are pretty simple and actually experience the effects of it. It's a way to experiment, if you will. You can say, for example, an invitation I was extending during a session the other day is just sit down, and I've done this for years without realizing when I started really why I was doing it or what I was doing it, but you can write down your I ams. And you can say, okay, let's tie it back to identity. If you start saying I am and you start listing these identities that you have adopted and you've created and adopted and claimed, then my invitation is, okay, now pan out a little further, be a little more objective, if you will, and say, okay, how can I broaden that language of that? How can I reframe that? Because as you shift your thought, your language, your thoughts, then you're going to shift that frequency. So if I say, I am a human being, I'm going to have a certain effect. I can actually feel that viscerally in my body. Yeah, well, that's truth. I'm a human being. However, I'm going to have experiences that connect to what that means in the collective. What that means and how we have translated that is, that means I'm limited.
Yeah. Because we have an idea about what it means to be human. And that idea may carry limitation for you.
Right.
So if you say I'm an infinite being, that's a different idea.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. You could say I'm a divine being. I am a infinite being. And you're not trying to talk yourself out of the reality that you are human. You're not trying to escape. You're trying to broaden that to say, in fact, the way I did that in the beginning is I went from I am human to I am a divine human, meaning I am both. I am both.
Yeah.
And so it just kept expanding me to where, yes, I am an infinite being. And I think that's a practice that we can apply in anything.
Yeah.
It can be in anything.
And I can do that for you too.
Yes.
And you don't need to tell people you're doing this, but I can be within my awareness, within my consciousness, I can be in agreement with the divine aspect of Terri. That matters. Let me ground some more in a slightly different way, too. Going back to like sort of everyday situations and manifestation and stuff, because I've had these experiences, so I know. Okay, so let's say I am poor. Well, that's a claim of identity, and you're likely to be offered evidence to support your claim. If you can find ways to recognize the abundance that is offered to you, then you're reinforcing the idea of abundance in your experience. But let's really say, so I'm going to ask you a question. If I'm holding on to or hoarding my resources, is that contributing to abundance, or is that contributing to lack?
To lack.
Can we all just sit with that for a moment? Because basically, you have the energetic countenance that if you let go of this, you won't have enough. So you're in a fear stance. And so that's creating the atmosphere of lack around you, even though you're saving, pinching your penny. I'm not telling people not to save money. That's not.
It's a perspective and a mentality.
Yeah.
How you approach it. Yes. Last night I was listening to the first part of a new book I put on audio, and it's talking about when you realize the power of the I am, and you work with the I am presence and intentionally, and you realize that that's not separate from source, to just use some of my language. The more you do that and you actually work with intentionally manifesting in the tangible. So let's just say goods, or what's the other word that they used? Riches. If you're doing it from an aligned place rather than a place of greed or separateness, again, fear or separation, if you're doing it from this fullness of knowing your infinite abundance. I loved how he said, what you realize, the more you do that, you realize, oh my gosh, what I'm really manifesting is that the giving is the biggest aspect of all of this. Because we've moved out of being separate and in lack of I don't have, so I want to have. I don't have So we move into the giving is the golden nugget, if you will, around that, because the more you are giving and the less you're hoarding or holding or in that lack, the more is going to come in. That's just kind of a universal law, is that, and he was actually saying that at one point when The Secret came in, that was an aspect that wasn't really brought in at that time. It wasn't introduced through that means at that time, is that's another part of it, is the more you give. And keeping in mind, giving does not have to be a physical, tangible thing either. And so when we broaden from the lack perspective, we realize, and I said this to a beautiful person this morning in a phone conversation, like, I want to give back to you what all you've given to me, but I don't have. I said, let me tell you what you have. You are so rich. You have so much richness of love and giving. And that's all that matters. And so it was just a beautiful exchange experience. And she acknowledged it. Yes. I'm very rich in that. And I said, so rather than saying all I have to give, that is all, so maybe you can reframe that to, I have infinite love, So, but anyway, yes, it's I liked that. I liked that he framed it that way. It can come to a point to where there is so much giving because you understand there is no limitation. And that, that's a process we can come to.
The source of infinite supply.
Absolutely. There you go. There are no interruptions in the supply chain.
Yeah. And of course, there is a spiritual axiom: to give is to receive. Well, this has been delicious. How do we bring ourselves into focus for resolution?
Know and understand. I say know and understand. Understand being more the concept and a way to begin realizing it, but know, like you can feel this, that this is not something that you are saying I would like overnight success with. Again, that's self-sabotage. We're putting ourselves under what can feel like really heavy, intense expectations. Or so be mindful with your language. Let's just say this, to start with, being very mindful of your language. If you're saying, well, I have so much work to do. These are phrases I hear every day in sessions with people. I have so much work to do. I wished I was where you are. How do I get where you are? Well, I don't know where to start. I don't know, so these again are implying there's lack, and that's okay. There is no judgment of that. What I'm saying is, if you're really mindful of how your consciousness is outpicturing through your thoughts, through your words, through your expressions, then you can literally say in the moment, and you've heard me talk about this before, excuse me, I'm going to reframe that. Mm-hmm. You can say it right then.
Yeah.
You can give yourself permission to say, oops, I didn't really care for that.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to empower myself a little more. You can do it in any moment. And so just do that. Just start paying attention to your thoughts, to your language, and say, wow, how could I expand this a little bit? How could I reframe this? And give yourself permission. And I don't care. You can be as goofy as I am. You can laugh about it and be silly or whatever resonates with you. But you've got to be lighthearted about it and give yourself permission to do that. I don't say you have to. That's a choice you have.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a natural. If you understand that this ascension of consciousness is a process, it is inevitable to a degree that you're going to arrive at a place where you realize what Terri just expressed. I'm not constantly, but I often do the shifting thing or the reframing in my mind and my consciousness. So I think what I would like to leave us with is just a reminder of what's required for you to be worthy of this. And it's simply that you exist. Mm-hmm. You don't have to earn it. Mm-mm. Because you be, it is so. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a way to understand this I am thing. You are.
And that is your purpose. That's it. Yes. And then what do you want to do with that?
What do you want to do with
play
that?
With it. Get, like you said, get creative, get frisky, get excited. Just play, make it playful.
Yeah.
We do tend to make it so serious.
Yeah. Spiritual seriousness is the worst kind of seriousness. Yeah. But so this is about being, and manifestation is so much more about being than it is actually about doing, figuring out all the work. You'll begin to realize it's more about how you be and what you're tuning into, and rather than forcing things and making things happen and like the density of that, as Terri said, it's more about receiving and allowing. That's the differentiation in the paradigms, is that we've come from a space where we created structures that were built on this idea of unworthiness and lack and needing to force things and make things happen. And we kind of lost sight as a species, as a civilization, about what happens with the energy, the fact that we are generators of vibration, that we are conscious creators, or that we're unconscious creators, whatever the case may be. So we're moving into more of a space of allowing and receiving and being. It's not that we don't do things, but the energy precedes the action. The alignment precedes the action. And there's not a being alive that's not worthy of this. And human relationships will certainly evolve as more people come online to these new frequencies. Because from your alignment with your I am presence, so many behaviors that we may otherwise see outpictured otherwise are not options for you. They're not. They're just not there. You don't. The I am presence doesn't harm. There is only benefit. There's only benefit. You can't be an obstacle to anyone or anything for any reason. You are a benefit to everything. Mm-hmm. And everything is to your benefit. Mm. It feels like a nice expanded space.
I was going to say, I am extremely expanded right now. Yeah. So I would agree. It's very... That feeling right there, I mean, that's the I am presence.
Yeah.
It just feels so delicious and just like, I'm just going to sit in this a little bit. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So thank you for hanging in there with us for this one and receiving and sharing with us energetically. And so now we'll leave it there and we'll all take this energy out into the world and share it with the people we encounter, and not just people, mm-hmm. trees and plants and the fairies of the universe.
There you go. Yeah, just definitely, I invite you to practice it. Apply it. Just play with it.
Be it.
And see how that feels, how that is outpictured in your life. And every time, it still can surprise us in such a beautiful way.
I'm so grateful for that.
Yes, it's so exciting.
Okay, shall we leave it right there?
I think so. Thank you for today.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We'll see y'all next time.